Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praise, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chakodash. Peace and double honors to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. All right, I'm the brother Ashiar coming at you with another lesson of edification. All right, from the Men of Valor Camp, specifically the branch over here in NYC. Okay. And I wanted to get into this lesson on some current events and things that's going on in the news. We spoke about many of these things at camp, and it sparked my spirit through the spirit to get into some of these things that we mentioned and some of these things that's being spoken of. So I have this video from this guy. His name is Colonel Larry, Lawrence Wilkerson. Okay, and he has a lot of inside knowledge about military affairs and things like that. Okay, and we're going to get into that lesson. But before that, I do want to bring this out. All right, Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Okay, so at this particular point in the vision, John was seeing, all right, he was witnessing that second woe being passed. All right, the second woe meaning World War II. All right, and that third woe coming. Okay, so we're in between the time of the second woe and the third woe right now, and we're rapidly approaching the third woe. We're in the beginning stages of that third woe. Okay, because we know that it's all a buildup. It's not just they're not just gonna flip one day and fire the missiles. It's a buildup. They got to get troops over there. They got to do this. They got to do that. Nations have to get dragged into it. A lot of bloodshed. Okay. And this is what we're witnessing, okay? Another one, okay, is this. All right, we're going to get right to it. This is from the book of Jeremiah, okay, 28 and 8. The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence, okay? So we're in the times of this, okay? This is what the prophets always did, okay? So the church, pastors, these other Israelite camps that are not speaking on the things that are going on, they're not prophets of the Lord, man. They're not prophets of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai is the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Christ, okay? His real name is Yahweh Shai in the ancient Hebrew. All right, we received that name through the teaching of the apostles of Great Millstone, which the Lord had the Spirit upon them to receive those names, all right? And the men that preceded them in this faith, okay? And that's how you would know who the prophets, who the men of the Lord are, who the teachers, who the pastors of the Lord, all right? Who are the real ones that are the shepherds over his flock, because they'll have the true names of the Heavenly Father and his Son, okay? It says in Sirach 17 and 10 that the elect shall praise his holy name. All right, but it says the prophet which prophesieth of peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord hath truly sent him. So basically, this was Jeremiah's response to a false prophet named Hananiah. Okay, he was saying that the Babylonian captivity was going to be shorter. In other words, he was prophesying of peace, and peace was not coming. All right, and you have many of these different pastors that we're at the point now where the prophecy is speaking so loud that they just don't have much to say. All right. Nobody's going to the Christian church to learn about these things. They have to come to the true prophets of the Lord, man, because playtime is over. All right. You got the elder Lamadia, Salaki, if I mistake the name, but I believe his channel is Jim as Playtime Over. All right. That's a channel I watch a lot. And that statement has never been more true than now of what we're experiencing. Okay, and prophecy. All right, so we're gonna get right into this video. All right, Lord's will is edifying.
That's one of the things that Foreign Minister Archie said was that we're deepening our inability to end this conflict, because one of the things that Foreign Minister Archie said was reparations. You're going to have to pay for all the destruction you've done, particularly to those targets that are not war targets, that are war crimes. You're going to have to pay to rebuild them. Now, I'm not saying for a moment that this country would do that, but I'm saying you are making your ability to end this conflict on some terms that might not be earth-shattering very, very difficult. And let's just talk about that for a moment. Here's a president who says we get all our own oil, not through the Strait of Hormuz, but elsewhere, meaning mostly we get it from the Permian Basin and other places like that in our own country. I got news for him. That didn't have much effect on the price of Brent or West Texas Intermediate. And I would suspect it doesn't have much of an effect on prices of other commodities that come out of the Strait of Hormuz that the world is only now, I think, in many places, learning about, such as helium and urea and other things that are critical. You were talking about the Strait of Hormuz not being critical to the United States. You are full of it up beyond the top of your head, Donald Trump, because what we're talking about is destabilizing the global economy to the point where we are almost right now, by the definition of the term, 2 quarters in a row in recession. You're talking about bringing about depression. And not just depression here or there, but global depression. That's what you're talking about, Donald Trump.
Right. So as you can see, as you heard him say, okay, they're looking for this deal. And, Donald Trump is talking a lot of shit, but this man is a proven liar. Okay. He was a reality TV star before he became president. And, he's an Edomite at the end of the day, regardless of his past. And we know one thing about Esau, they lie, okay? And for the Iranians, I was just watching the foreign minister. I forget his name. I think his name might have been Arachi. Let me look it up real quick. But let me see his name. Yeah, I think the foreign minister of Iran, his name is Abbas Arachi. Yep. So he was I think he was in Turkey, in Istanbul, speaking about how basically some of the reporters were asking him about a deal, and he was saying, what's the point of a deal? They have not in good faith negotiated with them once, and for anything. All right, so this is Psalms 55:20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. So they're looking to make peace. They're looking to make a deal, but you can't reason with an unreasonable man. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. All right, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Right, so even though he has these smooth, buttery words, about make a deal. Now he's coming to the point where he's abandoning even that, and he's just going straight for the jugular. He's going straight for the fire and brimstone talk. Okay, which he's going to get what he's asking for. That's going to be the ultimate fate of America. America's going to be wiped out with those ICBMs. Okay. But it says what? His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Okay, so as he's talking about reasoning with you, they're taking down bridges. All right, they've double tapped the bridge, meaning that they blew up the bridge that was from Tehran to another area, right? Civilian bridge, okay? Imagine if they did that over here. Okay, people would be up in arms, all right? But they go do that to other countries, and these other countries are just supposed to deal with it. All right. But basically, they double tapped it, so they blew it up. And then when the first responders came, they fired more missiles to kill them too. All right. So how can you reason with a man like that? Okay. And the Lord is stirring up these Persians, man. All right, which we're gonna grab that as well. But I'm gonna hold off on that, and I'm gonna play some more of this.
Characteristics whatsoever, and his dark wrote in recession me to the point where we are almost right now, by the definition of the term, 2 quarters in a row in recession. You're talking about bringing about depression. and not just depression here or there, but global depression. That's what you're talking about, Donald Trump. Now, I don't think he gives a hang, which is another reason why I detest the man completely now. He has no positive redeeming characteristics whatsoever. And his Darth Vader, and for those of you who don't remember Darth Vader or never saw the movies, Darth Vader was the evil one for the Sith Lord in the Star Wars.
Yeah, hey, Nero, he's like Palpatine. All right. All right. This is the Empire, man. And Palpatine lost his mind. He said, forget the Senate, you know. He just wanted to be a despot. The funny thing is, America be accusing all these other places of having tyrants and this and that, and now you got the biggest tyrant of them all. All right. This is the king of Babylon. All right.
Wars series. That's who Pete Hegseth is. Without the redemptive nature of having once been a Jedi Knight and therefore coming around at the end, as it were, Pete Hegseth is just that kind of person without any redemptive qualities whatsoever. We're looking at, and here's the second thing I'll say to that condition that I just described as a potentiality. I've seen the second set of targets, regional targets, the Iranians are looking at. I know what they're talking about. I know where they're talking about hitting. I know what, from the first set of targets they hit, they can do. I know the devastation. I know the accuracy. And I know the exquisite selection of targets that were struck to make sure that we and the regional powers knew that Iran was making every effort to hit the United States of America. And in some cases, like Prince Sultan Air Base, the people who were supporting those facilities for the United States of America. This second set has no such inhibitions. And I have no question in my mind that they can hit them and hit them with the incredible accuracy they did the first set and the incredible devastation. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Ras Tanura in Saudi Arabia with 550,000 barrels per day production throughput capacity. I'm talking about the other one up the stream from it, which produces 7% of the entire world's now light, sweet, and good crude, that Libya is kind of out of the picture for many purposes. We're talking about 7% of the global supply coming out of that one place. All it would take is a strike like they put on Bahrain, maybe another missile or two. That's out. I'm talking about the pipeline that the Saudis have built to kind of obviate the need for the Strait of Hormuz, although it doesn't do much of that, especially now with the Houthis having been at war with them for so long, that goes over vicinity of Jeddah to the Red Sea. They're going to take that out. I'm talking about every target in the region that applies to what I just said, global recession, depression. They're going to hit them. That's their second tier. So if we
global recession, depression, and this is what, from the apostles on down, the Spirit has been upon us to say that this is what's coming. All right, 2 Ezra 15 and 28, behold, in horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia, those Arab nations, right? Saudi Arabia, UAE, okay, shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also the Carmanians, all right, which let's look up real quick. Okay, I know a lot of y'all know this already, but some watching may be new. Okay. Okay, there it is. All right. The Carmanians. All right. So I can. Okay, just bear with me 1 second. So as it was saying, the Carmanians are who? The Carmanians are the Iranians. All right. It's like I just had to log out of something else. Yep, Carmanians today. Here we go. All right, Carmanians today. It says Carmania is a historical region that approximately corresponds to the current province of Kerman, Iran, and was a province of many Iranic empires. Okay. Many Iranic empires such as Medes, Achaemenid, Seleucid, Parthian, and Sasanian Empire. Okay. So there you have it. All right. The Carmanians is a reference to the Iranians. Okay. Let's go back to this. 2 Ezra 15 and 30. Also the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood, and with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. So we know eventually that the Arab nations are also going to turn against the West. Every nation is going to turn against the West, to where it's just going to be Israel and US on their own, again, the whole world against them. All right. And the portion of the land of the Assyrians, the modern day Assyrians, is America. Okay. What people would call the West. Okay. So whether that's their, their actual bases and different things, there's a number of ways it could play out, but we know that they're going to come against America, Babylon the Great. Okay. It says, and then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, right? Because Ishmael, which is who the Arab nations come from, he's a wild man. Okay. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them. Okay. And the Esau and Ishmael, they have had an alliance, which we know a lot of those leaders of those countries are actually Edomites too. All right. But they both had that alliance based off the fact that they were both rejected from the covenant. All right. Abraham was rejected. Okay. I mean, not Salaki, not Abraham. Ishmael was rejected. All right. And then following him was Jacob and Esau. And Esau was rejected. All right. So they always had that connection. But now that's going sour. All right. So it says, then these shall be troubled and keep silence through their power and shall flee. Right. And that's going to be all of the nations are eventually going to turn against America, Babylon the Great, which we're seeing that unfold right now. Okay. So let's go back to the video.
You go on into this further, Donald Trump, you are going to set the world aflame economically, and you're going to make a pariah out of the United States like Israel is now. And that's a position from which it is going to take maybe a generation, if ever, to recover. That's what you're setting up, Mr. President.
Yeah, and Patrick, to that point by Colonel Wilkerson, I just want to pull up what Saudi Arabia is trying to do to bypass the restrictions that Iran has placed on the Strait of Hormuz. It's assertion of control. Here you have Saudi Arabia is trying to ship its oil now through the Red Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. It has been doing so because Yemen has not closed it, but Yemen has said that they will close it should this war continue and to continue to escalate, which economists are noting in the West, Patrick, would be one of the worst disasters maybe in the history of modern energy production and distribution.
One of the worst disasters in modern energy production and distribution. And Americans still have no clue. They're making their summer plans. I know people, a lot of these women going on vacation right now. You got women in Cancun. Hey, they're going to come back here. A lot of these Americans and these stupid ass hoes that's out here traveling, living it up, they're going to come back to a devastation. All right. Economically. Okay. Because people don't understand. They just hear war out in the Middle East and they just consider another Iraq and Afghanistan. They're not considering that this is the final straw that broke the camel's back. The Persians. Because now you fucking with China and you fucking with Russia. All right. And I have more information to show you that Russia is being a guard unto them. All right. Because that, we're going to get into it. But basically, they had some advanced systems that were Russian made in order to take down the F-15s. All right. So that just goes to show, although Russia is not directly involved, people are simple minded to think, oh, Russia and China is not doing anything. No, they're supplying them. And it's an embarrassment that even without Russia and China actually getting involved, you can't even handle that. Because as Apostle Tahar said it many times, and brothers have said it many times, that this man is a paper tiger, and America as a whole is a paper tiger. It's corrupt, okay? And when you have corruption, it's all about making money. They don't actually think about, when they're building up their militaries and they're building up their technology, it's all about making money. So that causes you, just like cell phones, all right? They make them and it's called forced obsolescence, right? So meaning that after a certain amount of time, the technology is replaced, okay? And now you're seeing that they made all these big, carriers, and what have those carriers been able to do? Nothing. They got hit and they had to get them up out of there. So the time of carriers and the time of, air pilots and all that shit, they're still going to use them because they use them as sword fodder. Because if those get hit, or if, for example, this whole F-15 fiasco, that's more of a reason to bring more pressure to get troops in Iran. Okay. But again, when you have a military industrial complex that's based sheerly off greed, all right, you're not going to make the most effective and cheapest things. You're going to be concerned with making profits. All right. And that's going to bankrupt the country. But again, it's all by design, right? But it's the Lord controlling them to do that design, which is leading to their ultimate demise. All right. So let's get I got this real quick because he said global economy collapse, right? This is Zephaniah 1 and 11, 1 and 10. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate, and an howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. That great crashing represents a crash, a market crash, okay? Howl ye inhabitants of Maktesh, for all the merchant people are cut down. All they that bear silver are cut off, okay? So all they that bear silver, all right? That's dealing with what? Merchants, okay? Businesses, things like that, right? Now we know that applies back to, ancient Israel, but applying it to now, all right, let's I got this right here, right? Let's see what it says, right? Pulling this up, it says, Howl ye inhabitants of Maktesh is a prophecy calling for wailing among the merchant and wealthy in Jerusalem's commercial district, the mortar or hollow, due to impending economic collapse and destruction. Today it applies as a warning against putting trust in financial wealth, luxury, and materialistic idolatry over spiritual righteousness. Now, who is more guilty of that than anybody? America. This is the land of vanity. This is the land of materialism. All right. Okay, Maktesh is the mortar. It says located in a hollow or valley in Jerusalem, likely the Tripolian Valley. This was a densely packed, bustling area filled with traders, silvers, merchants, and shopkeepers. All right, that's like your ancient, your modern equivalent is like a Times Square. All right, it is called a mortar because inhabitants will be pounded or crushed by invading armies, just as grain is in a mortar. The inhabitants were focused solely on gain, money handling, and trade, often with foreign idolatrous influence, leading to a total cutoff of their wealth. Okay, so if we'd apply it to now, it says what? Sudden financial collapse as a warning against extreme materialism and economic idolatry. And what do you think of Isaiah 47? All right. That whore, the daughter of Babylon, okay, the virgin daughter, which is America, okay? And what is she concerned with? I'm going to get back to that. But this is Isaiah 47 and 7. And thou sayest, I shall be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore, hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that say in thine heart, I am, and none else besides me. I shall not sit a widow as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. You don't think calamity is going to come upon you. That's the mentality of America. Look at your president. He's so pompous. He's so arrogant, you know. And meanwhile, he's lying, you know. The whole time he's lying. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, and one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. And this is what we're witnessing, all of these enchantments. All right, everything is failing them. Their lies, their propaganda, the things that they were able to peddle to the public and get them to believe it, they can't do it anymore. All right. And this is the most exposure that they've ever experienced. Esau, Edom. Okay. And the pressure's on, man. All right. Now they're stuck in a mire over there of this whole Iran situation, and they don't know how to get out. You know, I was watching Mario Nafal, which he's another political analyst, which that dude is a damn agent. All right. Which a lot of them are, you know, controlled opposition, but that dude is always trying to favor, you know, Israel. And the dude was hoping for what you call it, a happy ending or some kind of relief. Okay, but they don't have the spirit of prophecy. They don't have the knowledge of wisdom and understanding. All right, so they don't know. All right, but they're not grasping how bad this is actually about to get. All right, oil being $200 a barrel. Okay, and it can go higher than that. That's just a projection. And they're not even considering how bad, because this is all unprecedented territory. Like he said, the other dude on the video with Colonel Wilkinson said that basically this is the worst economic or the worst time since energy production and distribution has been in modern times. All right. So let's get back to this. All right. How ye inhabitants of Maktesh, what would it mean for now, right? Sudden financial collapse, just as the merchants in the Maktesh lost everything. The verse warns that modern economies built on greed, excessive speculation, and dishonesty can suffer sudden, profound ruin. Okay? The warning targets all they that bear silver. It implies that societies focusing entirely on profit, luxury, and holding silver, accumulating wealth, will face ultimate destruction. Okay? Ultimate destruction. That's what's coming. And before the missiles fly, you're going to have these economic calamities. All right. And we see the black swan is making itself, it's being exposed, it's making itself known. Okay. It speaks to the inhabitants of modern market areas, financial districts, corporate centers, and city centers where economic pursuits take precedence over moral or spiritual concerns. Okay. And America completely embodies that. That's the mindset of America. Okay. Okay. So it says what? A call to repentance. And this, we know that this is only going to be for the elect. All right. But it says the message is not just destruction, but a warning to pivot away from a reliance on mammon, money, and towards spiritual values before a time of crisis arrives. Right. Seek the Creator in the days of thy youth. In essence, it is a timeless call for those relying solely on their economic security. See, even chat, well, I guess this is Google, right? Even they understand, okay, that these scriptures are timeless. Because you'll have a moron pop up and say, well, that was talking about ancient Jerusalem and blah, blah, blah. But even the AI understands that the message still stands, all right? They were relying on their wealth. And the same thing is happening now on the highest levels, man, and even worse than it was happening then. So then it's going to be a worse judgment. Okay? It says relying solely on their economic security to realize its fragility and to repent from a consumerist, self-serving lifestyle. That's the greed of America, man. That's the greed of Babylon the Great. That's why she has the mentality that she's gonna be a lady forever. That's how she has that mindset that she's putting herself on a level of a god, man. All right. And look at your president. He's a capitalist, man. He's a dude that's been in business, made money. All right, but he's trying to position himself because he knows that this is coming, and they got dirt on him. So they got him in the back pocket. All right, the small hats, that is. All right, let's keep going.
Danny, I'll just add the capacity of what they're doing is about 1/4 of what would normally be flowing through the strait. So even that's an economic setback.
Yeah, definitely. So, Patrick, your thoughts, your reactions to this? Oh, sorry. Hold on one second.
The interesting thing about that east-west pipeline, the Petro line pipeline there at Yanbu, that port, that facility on the Red Sea, as Larry rightly points out, it's only a fraction in terms of what it's able to deliver in terms of output that would normally go through. So it could deliver at the moment like 1.5 million barrels a day or something like that at full capacity based on what it's currently tooled up to do. But the shortfall on the global markets around 8 million barrels that are not coming through the Straits of Hormuz that would normally come through. But the thing is,
I wanted to grab something else too about Trump's recent statement about Power Plant Tuesday, right? Yeah, man, they taking it there. All right. Okay, they taking it there. Okay, let's pull this up real quick. Trump, this is from Reuters. Trump on Easter threatens hell on Iran's infrastructure if strait remains blocked. Okay. Trump said U.S. will target Iranian power plants and bridges if no deal. Democratic senator says Trump rhetoric risks safety of U.S. troops. It really risks the safety of the whole world because you're going towards Armageddon based off of this whole situation. When people look back in history, they're going to say, well, yeah, this was the beginning of how it all just became unraveled. All right. Iran warns it will target U.S. interests if civilians attacked. This is April 5th, okay, which is today. U.S. President Donald Trump said in an expletive-laden social media post on Sunday that the United States will target Iran's power plants and bridges on Tuesday if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened. Man, this is like if we maybe like 20, like when brothers first came in, like years ago, 2020. Well, I came in around 2017, 2016, 2017. But if we had known about this and we had just seen this snapshot of what's happening, this would be like unbelievable. Like, damn, this is really happening. And we're witnessing and living through it, man. All right. So it says Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. And this is how you know it. It says covereth with a chain. Pull that up real quick. There it is. Yep. This is Psalm 73:6 in the NIV. Therefore, pride is their necklace. They clothe themselves with violence. Your clothing is also likened unto your philosophy and your doctrine. All right. They wear pride like a jeweled necklace and clothe themselves with cruelty. Okay. So that is, what we're witnessing. The dude talks about death and destruction, and it's all based off of greed because we welcome the destruction as well, but we welcome it in righteousness because we know that Yahweh Shai is going to establish a righteous kingdom. He's doing it out of pure greed and evil for himself, just for the sake of shedding blood. There's no righteousness. There's no just judgment going forth. Okay. Okay. It says, but then didn't he say that it was open? Didn't he said open the fucking strait or some shit, right? Oh yeah. We're gonna get to that. It says Trump said in a Truth Social post, referencing the key shipping lane that Tehran has effectively closed since the U.S. and Israel launched attacks on Iran more than a month ago. Open the fucking strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Just watch. Trump said, ending his Easter morning post with praise be to Allah. Hey, this nigga losing his mind. He's losing his mind. And hey, it's beautiful, man. Millions of Americans voted for him. Okay? Millions of you fucking dummies voted for this guy, man. You see, and when he got up in office, shit, brothers were happy. But not for the same reason you people were happy. You were happy because you thought he was going to usher in a new era of America, okay? Of America being on top. Okay, but this is what you're getting. Okay, open the strait and praise be to Allah. That's your president talking, man. Through tweets. World War III being waged off of tweets, man. This is madness. But you people voted for this. So the people that voted for him, they got their head, they're embarrassed, man. You see Theo Vaughn and them, because, you know, again, they marketed it, and they got you people in the trick bag. They got you through deception because he said it wasn't going to be wars. People like that idea. He said, you know, they were going to get rid of the TGs in the schools and, you know, clean up America and make America a so-called Christian nation again, right? Which it never was to begin with. It was established off rape, robbery, and murder. Okay. But all of those talking points drew people in. All right. Like Joe Rogan and them. All right. And you had Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn. All right. Which Theo Vaughn could be a Jake the way he was talking. Even Joe Rogan could be, but, you know, who knows? We'll see when the time comes. But he's a damn demon anyways. All right. But Theo Vaughn was basically like, yeah, you know, you got politicians doing this. We're doing it all for Israel. He was just basically venting all his frustration. And Joe Rogan was like, yo, you all right, man? Is everything cool? Like, you wanna talk about? Like, he basically see the dude like basically trying to make him out to look crazy. Okay. All right. But you know, they know because they're all juiced in. All right, they gotta represent certain talking points, but they all stood up and got down with the whole Trump thing, and millions of you Americans thought it would be a good idea to put him in office. All right, which we know they're selected, not elected anyways. All right, but it says Trump's threats follow an intense 48-hour rescue operation for 2 U.S. pilots inside Iran. Trump said in his early Sunday social media post that the second pilot with rescue was seriously wounded and is a highly respected colonel. The rescue was an Easter miracle, Trump said in a text message to NBC's News's Meet the Press on Sunday before heading to his Washington golf club. Like, people are so caught up in their lives, man. They're not understanding how history is literally unfolding before their very eyes, man. History. Okay? This is history, man. This is going to go down as this, like, you know how they talk about different presidencies and different things that happen. All right, but you ain't going to have much more history left. All right, this is it for you. All right, but it says such a rescue has never happened before and so violent in enemy territory. And that's what they're saying. They're claiming that they got them back, but they lie like they breathe, you know? Lying is like breathing or drinking water to them. You know, it's second nature to them. So who knows? Because if I saw other shit that said that Iran said they didn't get none of them, them niggas back. But yep, that's what they're talking about. You know, we'll see. But point being that shit is up. All right, it's going up. It's continuously escalate. All right, we're gonna get back to some more of this video.
Answer Allah, the Houthis have already targeted that port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've already proven, yeah.
As
2
have
years
Iran, I believe, earlier in the war. But continue, yeah.
Or years ago. So a couple of years ago. So it's what the Houthis, as the Americans call them, Answer Allah, their capabilities today are much better than they were 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So that's an open target. So this already been proven that can be taken out. So why would Saudi Arabia want to put the money into upgrading that port facility to use it for this great bypass, let's call it, if that can be just taken offline literally in a day by you know, drones or missiles.
Right, so they could build, you know, they can keep building up this infrastructure that's getting destroyed, but with how quickly it was destroyed, they're looking at it like, damn, like, what's the point? You're going to keep building that infrastructure, and Iran will just keep sending drones, and they got upgraded versions from the Russians. Okay. All right. So we see them becoming a guard unto them, right? Which is Russia guarding these other nations. All right. Chiefly right now, we're dealing with Iran. Yeah, I got this right here. I wanted to pull up because it just goes to show that Russia is backing them because of those S-300 and S-400s, man. That's the only way you could take down the F-15 because the F-15, they said, is meant to dodge air defenses. It says, yes, Russian-made S-300, PMU-2, or S-400 systems operated by Iran or their indigenous counterparts like the WW3 are capable of detecting, tracking, and engaging F-15E strike Eagles. Eagles, man, come on. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, man. All of the signs and the clues are there. If for somebody with a spiritual mind to see it, that shows you who Esau is, man. The Edomites. Read the book of Obadiah. These systems are designed to counter 4 to 4.5, 4.5 generation aircraft like the F-15, which lacks stealth technology and have a relatively high radar cross section. The S-400 is designed for long-range engagements up to 400 kilometers and includes advanced radar for detecting non-stealth aircraft. Iran utilizes a layered defense network combining the S-300, which are all Russian-made, right? Okay, Bavar 373 and shorter range systems, Cordad 15 to cover different altitudes and ranges. All right. Recent reports from April 2026 indicate claims of Iranian air defenses engaging U.S. jets using these systems, highlighting a potential, though disputed, scenario. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, this is what we're seeing. This is what we're witnessing unfold. All right, and all praise be to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Things are accelerating rapidly. Okay, the Russians getting involved, the Iranians. All right, we're at the precipice of something disastrous for this world, man. So stay prayed up, stay locked in, stay diligent, stay in tune with this ministry, man, with the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, because it's just going to keep going up from here, man. All right, so we got to prepare ourselves for what's coming. All right, so that day don't overtake us as a thief in the night. That's why we watch and pray. We continuously warn you out there of the household of faith of these things. All right, we're not just talking to move the air. All right, we're not just talking just to talk. We're speaking because you need to be aware of how serious this situation is right now. Okay. All right, and this is all that we care about. All right, basically at this point, it's all prophecy, man. All right, prophecy. You may see brothers do, which we still have to do character building videos at times, and some brothers lean into that a lot more than others. But overall, prophecy is the main thing to focus on right now, because that means what? Our redemption draweth nigh. All right, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close this thing out. And Lord's will, y'all were edified, giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Chaf Dash. Shalom to the next one.